You're listening to The Creative Impostor. I'm multimodal media strategist, podcast producer, educator, and your host, Andrea Klunder. I'm here to support you, the creative leader who wants to make a positive cultural impact. Y'all, it has been a weird week. I can't even get into it. I am not going to tell you about the weird week because it is not going to be helpful to you. Instead, I'm going to tell you about something amazing that happened last week. This is a solo episode in our Creativity and Media as Resistance series here on The Creative Impostor. And this episode is 3 things for your creative resistance toolkit, Volume 2. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the really cool, amazing experience from last week. But first, I want to give you some things that are equally as amazing, but maybe not quite as joyful. And these first 2 things are super important. They are both podcasts. I promise you the third thing for your creative resistance toolkit will not be a podcast, in case that's not your thing, except you're listening to this, which indicates to me that you're at least partially into podcasts. So there you go. You've self-selected. Number 1 on this week's list, you know her, you love her, she's been on this podcast, Jen Briney, Congressional Dish. I have already recommended it. However, I wanted to call out that if you have not yet started following Congressional Dish and added it to your podcast player, I want you to go do that now. Episode 320, yes, 320 from July 31st. One big, beautiful bill, a dangerous law. It is long. However, I really want you to listen to this. And I am pretty sure there's going to be a part 2 of this coverage coming soon. Jen took a long time to comb through this bill, which is no longer a bill. It is now, in fact, law in our nation, much to the chagrin of myself and maybe you. I am recommending this not to bring you down. I am recommending this not because there's a whole hell of a lot that you can do about this now being law. I am recommending this episode because I think it is important to take the time to learn and understand what is actually materially in this thing. And unless you're going to look it up online and read the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages to figure out what is going on, you're not going to know. All you're going to hear are the highlights, lowlights, doom and gloom, scare tactics, rage bait. Don't rely on what you see on social media or even on major news network coverage. It's just not that comprehensive. It's soundbitey and clickbaity. That's hard to say. Soundbitey and clickbaity. And I think that Jen does a great job of breaking down what could possibly be the most concerning things for a lot of us in here. And the reason to make yourself listen and hear it is because if you don't know what it is, if you don't know what's in there, if you don't know the details, then A, it's hard to have a clear, effective conversation with anyone about it. And B, you can't do anything to protect yourself, to protect people in your community, protect loved ones, to make a plan for how these things may impact you or the people that you know. And if you are informed, at least your subconscious brain can go to work in finding solutions, finding alternatives, finding strategies. And I think this episode does a lot to help arm us with information so that we can make choices. So that is Congressional Dish with Jennifer Briney. That is episode 320, One Big Beautiful Bill, A Dangerous Law from July 31st, 2025. The second podcast that I want you to listen to for very similar reasons is The Money with Katie show with Katie, Gatti, Tassin. I want to say something about Money with Katie because I started listening to this show quite a while back when most of Katie's content was practical personal finance, tools, tips, advice, strategy. And I see you, Katie, you have really shifted into systems, society, economic and social structures that impact our finances, whether we like it or not, whether we educate ourselves or not, whether we do the dang best that we can to earn what we need and save and invest and spend wisely, there are forces at play that are bigger than we are. And it makes me angry, but it also allows me to take a deep breath and sigh because maybe, just maybe, I'm not doing absolutely everything wrong. Maybe I'm doing the best that I can with the ecosystem that currently exists. And maybe there are things that I can do slightly better the more that I learn. This episode is Season 2, Episode 269 from July 29, 2025, Understanding the Big Beautiful Bill's Repercussions with the highest ranking woman in Congress. Who is that? I didn't know who that was. That is House Democratic Whip Representative Katherine Clark. That's what it says in Katie's description. And this is, again, an enraging look at what is now law about what your average American can anticipate over the coming years from the downstream effects of Medicaid cuts on rural and low-income communities to the fourfold expansion of the ICE budget. Yeah, it's not joyful, but it is really informative, and I just think it's better to know than to be caught off guard with no plan and taken by surprise. And it definitely made me think about things in a way that I had not previously thought about them, and to be able to feel a little more grounded in my own understanding of how things may play out. Again, no one has a crystal ball, but there's a lot of very good educated guesses. So that is The Money with Katie show, July 29, 2025. Understanding the Big Beautiful Bill's Repercussions with the highest ranking woman in Congress. So these two episodes are essential listening. Please add them to your podcast queue. Please take care of yourself and wrap yourself up in a cozy blanket. It's summer. It's hot. Don't do that. Pour yourself a refreshing, citrusy beverage. Put a little paper parasol in it if you wish. And happy educational listening. Okay, those are the first two. The third is not a podcast. It is not politics. It is not the big, beautiful turd of a bill. It is theater. Last week, I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, working on key change for our clients at the Santa Fe Opera Community Engagement Department. And one thing I love about having the opportunity to travel to Santa Fe quite frequently is that there's always something new to discover. There are weird things, beautiful things, creative things, artistic things, and food things. Don't let me forget food things. And I always come back from these trips feeling like my cup has been filled. Now, if you are not in New Mexico, if you are not traveling to Santa Fe, you may not have the opportunity to experience this specific thing that I'm going to tell you about. However, I want you to hear the experience that I had and then see if you can find a way to engage in a similar type of experience in your own community. So what is that type of experience? Okay. When I told my therapist that I was going to Santa Fe last week, she said, "Oh, I happen to know some people there who started their own theater company called the Exodus Ensemble. I went to theater school with them, and they do these really cool productions. You should look them up and see if they happen to be producing anything while you're there." Great. Awesome. Done. So I look up the Exodus Ensemble, and they are, in fact, performing shows the week that we were there. So the show is called Cyrano. It is based on the French story of Cyrano de Bergerac, like loosely. And the type of theater that Exodus does is immersive. What does immersive mean? It means audience participation, which normally, as a performer, I like engaging the audience, but as an audience, I don't want the performers to engage me. I'm the person not making eye contact when they're looking for a volunteer and not wanting to be in that space. I go to theater to be in the audience and to observe from a safe distance, fourth wall, that whole thing. Okay. But I was like, let me just see. Let's just check it out. And in this case, there isn't a lot of information about the show online, so it's a little bit mysterious. I know that it is intimate audience sizes, so they only have 15 audience members for each performance. I also know that they have a value of making sure that the shows are accessible to anyone. So because of that, you don't pay for your ticket up front. You reserve your spot, and then at the end of the show, they tell you that they will request donations in the amount of your choosing. And they give you a suggested ticket price so you can kind of level set and anchor that. So there's no surprises. It's not like, oh, I went to this thing for free and now they're suddenly asking me for money. No, they set the expectations very clearly. And what I know is that when you RSVP for this show, you are entering into a world that they have created whereby you are attending your high school reunion with the performers and with all of the other audience members. You are encouraged to think ahead of time of what clique you want to be in or might have been in or wish you had been in. You can dress appropriately for that clique. Now, I was traveling, so I didn't have a lot of fashion options. So I guess the closest thing I could have been in was the prep clique. So there we have it. I know that the show has 2 timelines happening at once. One is the high school reunion of it all, and one is a flashback to senior year of high school in which some significant thing had occurred. But you don't know what that significant thing is until closer to the end of the show. And let me tell you, I walked in, they handed me a drink. They were like, "Andrea, so good to see you. It's been so long. Remember that time we TP'd such and such house?" And I was like, I hate this already. Going with the flow, being a good sport, participating, playing along. And what proceeded to unfold over the next 2.5 hours is that they guided us throughout the space that they were performing in, and there were these scenes that happened in different rooms. Sometimes we were in a classroom, sometimes we were in the school cafeteria, sometimes we were in somebody's basement, sometimes we were, I don't even know where else. And the story was so engaging, so well performed, so unexpected. I really did not know. I couldn't predict what was going to happen, which I've said before. I love when that happens. That I was totally sucked in. I was immersed, if you will, in the immersive theater experience. And for 2.5 hours, I was so present with what was happening. I was so in my body and in the story in a way that just doesn't happen when you're watching TV at home on your couch or when even you are in a movie theater. I was so in it that I completely forgot about the thing we were just talking about with the other 2 podcast episodes in the beginning of this episode. I completely forgot that things feel so terrible in the world to me right now. I forgot for just that period of time, and I was able to just be myself or a fictional character that's sort of based on myself within the world of this story, having a human experience, reacting to the characters and the emotions and the storyline and the drama and the comedy that was unfolding in front of me that had nothing to do with the present political reality and everything to do with the reality of being a thinking, feeling, caring, creative human. I'm telling you, 2.5 hours flew by. At first, I thought, wow, that's a really long show. It flew by. It was so compelling. And then on top of that was the whole ethic of what they were creating. The commitment to the bit, right? Of like 15 tickets. That's it. Don't be late. If you're late, you're not coming in because it will have already begun. Train has left the building. It's the commitment to, no, really, pay whatever makes sense to you. And also, at the end of the show, the artistic director came out. Her name is April. She came out and she told us about the theater company, about how it started. She introduced us to the actors. She talked about how the actors in the company get paid to be in the company. I know this sounds radical. For those of you who are in the theater world, you may be like, that's amazing. And you know how hard it is to get paid as an actor. And also, if you're not in the theater world, you may be like, well, of course they pay their actors. Not always necessarily so. Paying their actors also doubling to take on administrative roles within the theater company. They disclosed with full transparency the annual budget for the theater company and how they rely on donations. And it was just refreshing to have that level of transparency and seeing creative individuals doing the work of crafting the experience and the world that they want to inhabit. And I don't know how well it works, honestly. I don't know how often they make their budget or go over their budget. I don't know how much those actors are getting paid specifically. I don't know the details, but I know enough to feel aligned with everything that's happening and to feel like an active participant. And then even as the show was ending, the actors came over and introduced themselves and were having conversations with us and asking us how we found out about the show and learning more about where we were from and, what our experience was like and asking us what we experienced or what we thought about this or that. And like that, even as a theater person, I don't think I can clock another time where that has occurred. Okay, I'm talking a long time about this. What I will say is that if you have the opportunity to go to Santa Fe, New Mexico, or if you live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, please check out the Exodus Ensemble. Of course, I will link to both podcast episodes that I mentioned and the theater company in the show notes for this episode in the description in your app. And I will also encourage you to look for the balance. Look for the ways that you can stay clear-minded, informed, knowledgeable, and proactive about what is happening in our world right now. And also find those opportunities to disengage. And when I say disengage, too often I think that looks like numbing out. And that is the opposite of what I'm suggesting. It is to find an experience, find an opportunity to engage with the experience of being a human interacting with other humans in a space that feels clear, nurturing, creative, playful, where you are fully in your body, fully in the elements, fully in the present moment, fully engaged, and fully you. Creativity and Media as Resistance continues. We are looking for guests for this fall. If you or someone that you know is using your creative powers or your media platforms for resistance in this moment, I would love to know more about it. Please email me, Andrea@thecreativeimpostor.com. It will be linked in the show notes for you. If you need to catch up on previous episodes in this series, you can listen to the audio episodes in your podcast app, or you can check out the video replays of the live streams. No editing, just live, just real life. On YouTube, and that link is also in the show notes for you. Future live streams are coming to you most Thursdays at 3 p.m. Central. I am taking next week off from the live stream as I will be at Podcast Movement in Dallas. If you're a podcaster and you're there, find me. I'd love to meet you and say hi. And also, if you are a podcaster or if you are pod curious, I wanted to let you know that new episodes of Podcast Envy, my podcast about podcasting, are coming soon. I'm so happy to be re-engaging that channel of communication. There is the public podcast feed that is available in your favorite podcast app. But if you want to get even more content, if you want to get that content completely ad and sponsor free, and if you want to have the opportunity to send me your top podcasting queries, questions, musings, wonderings, then I invite you to go to thecreativeimpostor.com/PEP exclusive. Linked in the show notes, of course, thecreativeimpostor.com/PEP exclusive. And there you can drop your best email and you will get an invitation to the Podcast Envy exclusive private podcast feed. And that is where you can find all of the things to support you on your podcasting journey. The Creative Impostor is produced, edited, and hosted by me, Andrea Klunder. Our theme music is by Jovia Armstrong. To find out more about how we can support you on your creative content journey, please visit thecreativeimpostor.com. I thank you so much for listening. And this week, well, I already told you what I want you to do. Find the balance between staying informed and disengaging in the most humanly engaged way possible.